Welcome into another edition of the Patriots Beat podcast here on the CLNS Media Network. I am Mike Kadlick from CLNS, joined as always by 98.5 The Sports Hub's real Alex Barth. I always say your Twitter name, Alex. I never say your real name, but it is Alex Barth over there from 98.5. We have a lot to get to. There's no point in even doing a rundown. We're just going to talk the Patriots, call it embarrassing loss to the Bears last night, 33-14 on Monday Night Football. The game's biggest stage. And the Patriots laid an egg. On offense, it was a disaster. On defense, a disaster. Let's get right into it.
Special teams, a disaster.
Special teams, a disaster. Your guy, Jake Bailey, a disaster. It wasn't good. Last night was a tough showing for the Patriots. Starting on the offensive side of the ball, the main storyline, the quarterbacks. I wrote about it. I tweeted about it. I'm here to talk about it here now. What happened last night was complete coaching malpractice on Bill Belichick's part. So according to reports now, if you haven't heard already, Bill Belichick, Bailey Zappi, and Mac Jones are the three people in the Patriots organization that understood that there were going to be two quarterbacks playing last night. Pretty much that was it. The rest of the team, the offensive unit, was not aware. Ramondre Stevenson, Mike Onwenu, Jacoby Myers after the game all said that they didn't know anything was going to happen with the quarterbacks. I think they thought Mac was going to play. I mean, it's still sort of unclear what's going on. And, Bill said it wasn't because of Mac's injury that he was pulled. He also said it wasn't a performance-based thing when he was pulled after throwing the interception. So it's all over the place, and it's really bad because Bill Belichick always tells us, he always says he does what's best for the team. Last night, whatever happened, whatever he did in the quarterback room was not the best thing for the team.
Yeah, it really wasn't. And like you said, there's really not a lot of clarity here in mixed messaging. And I don't even want to say Jeff Howard a tweet something about, inconsistent messaging. It's not that the message is inconsistent. It's who's receiving it is inconsistent. It's not like they're playing telephone. It's like the second guy just got up and left, right? So, even Bailey Zappi, when he was asked when he found out Mac was going to start, he said at the same time we were, which was basically kickoff, right? So he didn't really know. He might have known he was going to play, but he clearly didn't really know what the deal was. Bill said the plan was for Mac to go back in at some point if the score hadn't gotten out of hand. Zappi said he didn't know that. So Zappi didn't really know what was going on. Mm-hmm. Jacoby Myers didn't know, like you said, Michael Onwenu, Ramondre Stevenson. The only people who knew, apparently, were Bill, Mac, and then Mac comes out. So let me add this. So, Zappi doesn't know, right? Zappi said he's not entirely sure what's going on. Jacoby doesn't know. Ramondre doesn't know. I wish they had a guy named Scotty so I could make a Euro trip reference. But all these guys come out and say, hey, I didn't know. Mm-hmm. And then Mac comes to the podium and says, oh, Bill communicated the plan. Great. Bill was an excellent communicator. I knew exactly what was going on. What? So Mac,
it's crazy.
Bill knew, Mac knew, Adam Schefter knew, and Troy Aikman knew. He told the 1990 starting quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys before he told his own backup quarterback. There's absolutely no reason for that to happen. Everybody should be on the same page. We didn't get answers about reps, which who knows what the reps looked like during the week if this was the plan. Mm-hmm. I'll say this. You go back to the summer, right, where, I don't want to say I defended the offensive play caller situation. I was probably less aggravated by it than some because, as I said at the time, and I believe this is true for most of the Patriots, the stuff they keep close to the chest, it doesn't necessarily matter if we know. It may be frustrating for us trying to do our jobs, but in terms of the outcome for the team, as long as they know in the building, whatever, right? As long as they know whatever. And it felt like, whether you agree with it or not, that the players all knew what the plan was for the offensive play caller. As long as they know in the building, fine.
Right.
This doesn't feel like that.
No, it doesn't.
I can't sit here and say, as long as they know in the building, Bill can dink around with us. because they don't know. They're telling us they don't know. And
right, it's like
maybe it's a 1 week thing. Like maybe they clean it all up against the Jets, but it doesn't, Mike. It doesn't feel like that. That's the case to me. It feels like this is still going to be a thing.
That was going to be my next point. It's like, yeah, sure. Make the media run around in circles. Make us go loco on our Twitter accounts and in our articles all week. Whatever. Don't tell us. We don't know. Day by day. Ha ha ha. Smile, smile, smile. We don't know. Everybody laughs. All fun and games. No, because the team doesn't know, right? If after the game last night, they did what they did, and we finished up, we went downstairs into the media room, and Zappy and Bill and everyone said that was what was going to happen. And then we also talked to the other guys and they say, yeah, we knew that was going to happen. Fine. At least you told them. At least that's your game plan. And that was your plan throughout the week. At least
it feels like there's some sense of direction.
Exactly. Right now, zero sense of direction. It's quite literally coaching malpractice. It's not how you win football games. It's not a recipe to win, and it was embarrassing. It's too bad. And now, because Zappy finishes poorly. So you have a quarterback who's not that good, a 4th-round quarterback that you may have to rely on if that's the way you're going to go. Or you have Mac Jones, who just got booed out of his own stadium and listened to his fans chanting Zappy at him for 3 hours. It's terrible. Both quarterbacks are in really bad positions. The team looks like in a really, really bad place because of what happened last night. Coming into a game where you thought you had 2 quarterbacks, now you might have done.
Yeah, it's here's what's crazy about it. It's like, where do you go from here? And that's what this whole show is supposed to be. We're not going to sit here and just spew the hot takes without anything behind them. We're talking about, all right, where do we go from here? Mm-hmm. This might be the first in show history. I don't know. I mean, I would think you go back to Mac. He's shown more promise overall. He's a 1st-round pick, but he cannot be in a great spot mentally right now. No. And that is no fault of his own. Right.
I have to do this in the middle of this. Someone just commented, to be fair, we didn't boo Mac. We just cheered Zappy. I don't know if this Cody Woods was at the game or not. Me and Alex were right there at Gillette last night. When Mac went out after the interception and after they had 2 3-and-outs prior, they booed. There was boos all over the place when Mac was on the field. So, yeah, like you said, his confidence could be shot.
Yeah, I like, this was an ugly night for everybody. I put some of it on the fans. Understand what you're watching. We were all trying to tell you for 3 weeks, and it was, oh no, they're carrying the Patriots water and Mac people and blah, blah, blah. They don't want us to have fun with Zappy. We tried to tell you. I'm not going to mainly put it on the fans, but it was an ugly night all around. And yeah, with Mac, again, he's a 1st-round pick. He's shown promise, but people kind of pointed to that interception, and it was brutal interception.
It was
brutal.
Bad.
2nd and 10, he's got Ramondre right there in the flat, 4 or 5 yards up the field, set, throw it, easy. You move on, live to the next play. Mm-hmm. But, people are talking about him reacting to the pressure of like the pass rush and him being sped up. And that's certainly a part of it. I've talked a ton, maybe more than most, about him being sped up and that being the issue.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But it also felt like that play, some of the scrambles, like the pressure of losing his job. That was the throw of a guy who's trying to be like, hey, coach, look what I can do. Yeah. Right? Because he knows Bailey Zappi can't make that throw. Now, the difference is he can't either. Right. But he knows Bailey Zappi can't make that throw. And so now you've got this guy who basically on a snap-by-snap basis is out there playing for his job, which I know we talk about the competition of it all, right? And, quarterback competition's good. It pushes both guys. Yes, to a point.
100%.
It's called a constructive competition. You want the 2 guys pushing each other to be better. What you have now is Mac Jones just scared. And by the way, this can't be an easy spot for Bailey Zappi either. I was looking at him on the sideline while they're chanting his name while Mac is on the field. He did not look like he wanted to be there. He looked uncomfortable.
It was awkward. It was like, it's literally awkward in that quarterback room.
So it's one thing if Zappi then comes in and lights it up and that little gap, that little spot at the end of the 2nd quarter ends up being the whole game. Then it's like, all right, well, one guy's playing better. Well, neither is now.
Right.
It's, I don't know where they go. Again, I like to be the guy that sits here and gives you the logical, well, this, and this. And maybe you don't want to hear it, but it's going to be A, then B, then C, then D. I don't know. I
Right, like you
really don't
said,
know.
this is not a hot take show. This is not Felger and Maz. We try to just break it down the way it is. Let's talk Patriots. Let's get into it, right? It's not an overstated thing that what happened last night. This is not just like media conjugation of a storyline. Like this is real.
Right.
Like this legitimately happened in front of our faces, and there is like a legitimate like issue on our hands in the Patriots quarterback room. Let's get into it a little bit more in depth. We'll talk about both guys and see what they did and kind of what you make of what they can do moving forward, whether it's Mac or whether it's Zappy. Mac goes 3 of 6 for 13 yards passing, had the 24 yards rushing, and had the interception from Jaquan Brisker. He looked, like you said, he looked a little bit sped up on the scrambles. Maybe he was sped up, but his ankle looked okay, and he was
Ankle
still
looked fine. Yeah.
his ankle looked fine, and they were moving the chains a bit with some of those scrambles that he made. So like when it comes to that, I didn't think that the first two drives, I didn't think he did much wrong. There was a bunch of penalties, mainly on, I think Trent Brown had a couple, the offensive line. So they put him in a bad spot originally, his teammates, on the first two drives. The third drive, like you said, a guy who looks like he's just playing for his job, like a guy who knows in the back of his head, like, look, if I don't do this right now, then Bailey's going to come in and he's going to play better than me. So like, I also, it still looks like they're calling the offense differently with the two guys.
Oh yeah, no, they went back. They went back to weeks 1 through 3 when he was in the game. 100%.
Which is crazy. It's like, it's insanity. Everyone talks about the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again. And if it doesn't work, you do it again. Like that's literally what they did with Mac in the game. Spread him out, very limited play action, no under center, 4 wide, let Mac throw it deep and see what happened. It clearly didn't work the first time, and it clearly didn't work again last night. It blows my mind. I have some stats on it, but I'll get into that in a second if you have any initial thoughts just on Mac's stat line and kind of what we saw from him in his lonely 3 drives.
Yeah, like I said, I didn't think he was bad until he threw the
Right.
pick. Like one of the plays he hit, it was like a 2nd and 10. It was the play before the interception, actually. It's a 2nd and 10 or 1st and 10, and the read's not there. He comes down, he tries to check it down to Damian Harris for what would have been a 5-yard gain. Damian Harris drops the ball, literally. And all the fans start chanting for Zappy, like, what?
Yeah.
What? And so it's, it could have gone better, but there was nothing that I saw where I was like, oh, wow, no, he's regressed. And then he throws the pick. But
right,
you got to let the guy ease back in. So I thought it was a quick hook. I don't really, obviously, there was a plan, right? What did Bill call it? The situation.
Yeah.
He said that's what the situation called for. And then he was asked what the situation was. He said the whole situation.
It was the situation.
So we're talking in circles now.
Yep.
I didn't think Mac was that bad until the pick. Who knows if you let him keep going? That defense has been so-so, right? They haven't been bad. It's not the Lions and the Browns, but they haven't been great.
Right.
But it's just like when he got hurt, against the Ravens. It's that lasting image. I think a lot of this stems from recency bias, at least outwardly, where we all remember him throwing 3 picks against the Ravens, one of which definitely wasn't his fault. Another one may not have been his fault.
Right.
Like, servers, he's turnover prone. Well, no, it's just the last time you saw him. Well, now here you go again. And Bill was pressed on this after the game. He said that was the plan, was they were going to pull Mac there. He didn't define what there was. I'm guessing it was the first quarter because that drive bled into the early part of the second. It started in the first. The first drive that started in the second quarter was Zappy. But, like, Bill, you know what that looks like.
Right after the interception. And Phil Perry pressed him on it, and he was like, well, that's not what it was, but that's what you can write. Like, come on. Like, the finger-wagging nonsense that he does, it's clearly, you can see it's getting on my nerves. It's nonsense. I keep using the term malpractice, but like you said, it wasn't injury-related. It wasn't performance-related. At the end of the second quarter, after he throws an interception, the look, no matter what, the look and the way the
plan. It was just the plan.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, which, I mean, come on. Like,
so I wrote about this for 98.5 today. We're sitting up there, start of third quarter, still relatively close game. It's a 2-score game at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not how are the Patriots going to come back in this game. It's who's going to come in at quarterback. And then it hit me. Rotating quarterbacks, vanilla game plan, no adjustments on a weeknight. You know what that is, Mike? You know what that all is?
high school football.
It's a preseason game.
Yeah,
it's a preseason
seriously.
game. That was the latest preseason game in NFL history. That's the only time a switch like that makes sense, is in a preseason game. Otherwise, that's a benching. It's just what it is. Whether it's intended to be or not, that is a benching.
Well, that's the other thing I don't understand, right? Was this the plan, or was it actually a benching, and he's just trying to make it seem like it wasn't with the quarterbacks, and that's why now the other players are like, oh no, we didn't know it was going to happen, because the plan was to go for Mac, and really he just got benched, but he doesn't want to say it from his mouth.
I think that might be part of it.
Yeah.
I think that might be, but again, you can't pull. So here's the thing. It's one of two things. There's a theory out there right now from Tom Curran, and he was on Andrew Callahan's podcast, which is also on CLNS. And his theory was basically Mac pushed Bill to play. Bill didn't want him playing the full game. So he had this, he's basically, I'll play, we'll rotate him, right? Yeah. Mac gets to play, gets his wish. If Mac's not healthy, Bill, don't play him.
Right.
But if you're going to, do not pull him there. Do not, because it becomes something it's not. I think you need to understand that, right? Like, let's say that is what it is. Mac was only going to play a quarter, right? Mac was only going to play a quarter because Bill doesn't want him playing a full game because of the injury, which again, if he's healthy, he plays. If not, he doesn't. That's a separate issue. You got to put him out there for another drive. If you still truly believe he's your starting quarterback and he's your future, you can't let the night end like that. And I know Bill said that, they were going to put him back in later in the game. Well, then either do it, despite it being a blowout, or put him back in that spot if you know you might not put him in if the game gets away from you. I think some of it is Bill underestimated the Bears. I thought he thought he was going to have, I think he thought he was going to have the flexibility to dink around in this game because the Bears are the Bears. And frankly, he should have been right, because we'll get to the defense.
But it's the league. It's the NFL, like you said, though. I think
he underestimated the Bears.
100%. And it's like, how are you, Bill Belichick, like in a look-ahead spot? The guy who's been through it for 20 years, the greatest coach of all time by all accounts, gets caught up in a look-ahead spot because one of his quarterbacks is hurt. He has two pedestrian quarterbacks. Like, I kind of want to play both of them and see what happens and figure out Mac's injury. And it's crazy. It's like, it's been eating away at me ever since I left the stadium last night at 1:30. It's like what just happened? What just happened? The stats I wanted to bring into this whole thing is the way that they're calling the game differently with Mac compared to Zappe. And these are courtesy of Evan Lazar from Patriots.com. Check out his work at Pats.com. He's doing a great job over there, per usual. And the average air yards per attempt for Mac and Zappe, Mac's throwing the ball downfield, or throwing the ball in the air 10 yards versus Zappe's 7, which, again, that's not really the main focus here. The main focus here is the play action rate and the under center rate. Max, and these are on first and second down. Let me preface that. Sorry. First and second down last night, or throughout the season, rather. Jeez. Mac Jones play action rate, 11.7%. Bailey Zappe's play action rate, 26.3. Mac's under center rate on first and second down, 12.5. Zappe's 21.6. There's clearly a discrepancy in what you're calling between these two quarterbacks. So Bailey saying it after the game, or maybe it was today on Marloni and Fourier, whatever. The offense is different between these two guys, and you saw it on the first drive that Zappe's in the game. Zappe goes 14 of 22 for 185 yards, touchdown, 2 picks, QBR. That's the stat line you can read on the lower third. The game is clearly called different because the first drive of the game, they have Zappe in under center, they have him in play action, and the touchdown to Myers is this play called leak, where play action, everyone goes to one side and you leak somebody else on the outside and send them up the seam. Wide open touchdown, Jacoby Myers. You think they were going to run that with Mac Jones in the game? They've never done it before. I would love them to. He probably would have hit him on the numbers. So he wouldn't have had to fall and roll into the end zone. He probably actually would have scored in stride.
Let's pause right here. The heads-up play by Jacoby Myers to dive, first of all, make a great catch, and then recognize he was not touched down. A lot of guys would just kind of celebrate and, we'll score from the 2, whatever. To make that catch and then have the recognition, I'm not touched, get up and lunge towards the end zone. That's why Jacoby Myers is going to get paid this offseason. The details. He is excellent with we're going to be super kind of down on the team on this show, but I want to make sure we give Jacoby his due, because that was a great, great play.
Give Jacoby his due because, one, he's awesome. He's been awesome.
Yeah.
Makes that heads up play. And he pushed back on the coaches a little bit after the game too,
Yes,
which
yes.
I love. I mean, you got to give us something, and he's the one that's been doing it this year. So, but yeah, it's like Mac's in the game, and they're just saying, "All right, kid, let's see it. Go sling it, spread him out, and throw it in the air." Which
Right.
there was a play, the one he threw to Thornton, going back on Mac before we get into Zappy. The deep ball to Thornton was actually a pretty good ball. It looked like Thornton just got tied up a little bit, and Mac
He
got
got
hit
held
as
a
he
little bit,
threw.
yeah.
It was a good throw. So I mean, it can work in pieces, and if that's a completion, that's great. Like we've talked about it ad nauseum on this show. Run the offense that you've been running with Zappy and integrate this deep passing game into it a little bit. And it's like they just went back to this nonsense offense with
It
Mac.
just feels like when Mac's in the game, and I think he feels this way. It's on him.
Yeah.
Here's a patchwork offensive line. Here's new receivers. Here's a new play caller. Here's a new offense. Just figure it out, right? And
Yeah.
I think he feels the pressure if he has to he has playmakers he can get the ball to now.
Mm-hmm.
Devontae Parker, Tyquan Thornton, Jonnu Smith was on a bit of a run there, but it's like he feels it to me watching him. I think he feels like he has to be like Patrick Mahomes, which is not the case. And if it is the case, is really, really troubling. They're asking too much of him. With Zappy, it's much more playing to his skill set, which is what you want to do. I don't care who your quarterback is. You play to your quarterback skill set. That's what every team does. That's what they do. Great quarterbacks, right? So anyway, I know we're trying to get to Zappy, but
no, that's fine. Yeah, that's kind of what it is. And you just mentioned it. It's like, okay, Zappy goes in the game and he plays awesome for the start. I literally thought Gillette Stadium was going to fall over the way that place was rocking on those first two drives. It was like nothing I had ever seen before in person. It was incredible. In the back of my head, I'm like, okay, is this kid really the guy? Like, are we really doing this right now? It was great. And then disaster strikes pretty much for the offense. Again, they can't get anything going past those two drives. They put up no more points after going up 14-10. In Zappy's first two starts, the team had 22 and 20 first downs throughout each of the games respectively. Last night they had just 12. The run game was also terrible against a team that had another subpar run defense in the Bears. They only ran for 70 yards on the ground, 24 of which were from Mac Jones on the first three drives. Just they get the Zappy fever, and it's insane on the first two drives, and then after that, it's like they get and the defense was a part of this too, but the Bears are scoring, the Pats are not, and they can't play from behind at all.
Yeah, this is where we can kind of start to bring the defense into it, right? And the running game was from the beginning of the game with Mac was ineffective, and that's a problem against this team. It's a problem for this offense. All of it. They couldn't get Ramondre going. So what do? They try to get creative. They tried to run a mesh with Zappy and Jacoby Myers, and I don't think it was an RPO, but
I don't either.
It was just a really weird handoff mechanic from Bailey Zappy. Like he stuck the ball past Jacoby Myers.
Yeah.
And it's just, I can't imagine that to have had that much time repping that play, especially if what Zappy suggested after the game, he didn't have a ton of reps in practice. So that was just an odd play call. It felt very experimental. It goes kind of back to the preseason thing, right? You needed a play call you were sure about in that situation. Zappy just made that great throw on the sideline to Devontae Parker, one of his best plays of the night.
Yep.
And then they go to that, and it's fumbled. The Bears go down, score, get the opening kickoff, score. And now then the Patriots go 3 and out, which the offense could have done better. Bears score again. Now all of a sudden, game's over, right? The time differential in terms of time possession, the third quarter is like 13 minutes to 2 or something like that. It's very lopsided. So, look, Zappy couldn't lead them from behind. That's something that happened. That's what it looks like when the defense knows he's throwing and can sit on it. Now, can he get better at that? Sure. Mac got better at it, throughout the season last year. It seems like he's regressed, unfortunately, but that was a real test. That was the first real test for Bailey Zappy. And I don't think the play calling helped him out because, like I said, all right, say that one drive, they go 3 and out. That sucked. They had a penalty, I believe, on that drive that set them back. Second
penalties killed them all day too.
Right. Second drive was just rough. And then it's like, all right, it was a 19-point game. So it's a 3-score game with a field goal. And it's like, all right, well, there's 12 minutes to go. You have all 3 timeouts.
Yep.
This still is the Chicago Bears. Like, it didn't, as nuts as it all was, it didn't feel like the game is over, right?
Right.
12 minutes to go, 19-point game. And then they're huddling up and they're just running halfback dives. And they went like something like, I wrote the number. It's on 985sportshub.com in my column. It was something like 28 plays in or 28 yards in 6 minutes.
Ridiculous.
And they ended up turning the ball. They didn't even reach the 50. It took 6 minutes off the clock. And Bill said after the game, oh yeah, the game got away from us in the fourth quarter. If it did, they really don't believe in Bailey Zappi at all.
Right.
Like either they horribly mismanaged that game or they don't think Bailey Zappi's worth a damn. I don't know which one it is. But
no, they completely mailed it in at that point.
So it's tough to they didn't really give Zappi a chance, which like, okay, if you're playing him in this spot, this is great. This is great information. He's trailing against a not awful defense. Can he cut it? Can he not? Oh, we're just going to run out the clock? Like if you're going to treat it like a preseason game, treat it like a preseason game, learn something. But that to me was like the breaking point. You know, at a certain point, it's like, all right, Bill is Bill. He's going to do weird stuff. And granted, we hadn't heard the post-game comments at this point, but
right.
It's like, Bill's Bill. He's going to do weird stuff. And they start running out the clock in the fourth quarter. And it was like, well, what are we doing? Just let me go home then.
Yeah.
You're going to play essentially 2 quarters and quit? It was rough.
And like you said, just not knowing what Bill said and how he's unconventional and this and that. That's sort of another thing that it's a recurring theme on this show ever since I've been on. It's like, listen to what Belichick's telling you. We talked about it again a million times with Jelani Tavai, but like all the reports that came out, and it's like Mac Jones is going to play, and the Pelissero from NFL Network report that what they do is unorthodox, and then Schefter drops a bomb right before kickoff and is like, expect Bailey Zappi to play too. Like, and everyone's like, well, I don't know. We don't know. Maybe it's Mac. Maybe it's like, literally listen to what these national guys are telling you. It's probably correct. Same with Reese. It's like Reese never said start. He always said play.
Right.
Belichick told us what was going to happen, and we were like, oh, maybe, I don't know. But no, it happened. They both played, and they weren't great. Now you have, it's again one of those situations that we talk about. It's like, if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have none, and that's what it feels like now.
This is the embodiment of that statement.
Yeah.
It really is, because we went from them. I mean, we were talking about maybe you can trade Bailey Zappi, and we were invoking Jimmy Garoppolo, and we've come a long way from that. We've come. They let their quarterback situation get exposed. They basically, I don't know that there was a way Monday night went well, especially if Mac's injury is still lingering. It didn't need to go that poorly.
It was quite literally like worst case scenario.
Yes, no, that was absolutely worst case scenario. They could have left Mac in to take the beating, and then it's, hey, he was hurt, he's shaking the rust off. They could have just started Bailey Zappi, and it's, hey, now we know Zappi's not the guy. Mac comes back next week, fully healthy. They somehow split the difference.
Right.
And there's a reason you don't see. Every once in a while, this pops up. A team is either 2 good quarterbacks or 2 not so good quarterbacks, or like 2 quarterbacks are really different. Like this kind of happened at the end with Drew Brees and Taysom Hill. And why don't you have packages for both and rotate them? And you see it in college occasionally. Like Michigan did it at the beginning of this year. They were splitting starts and splitting halves. There's no preseason. You got to figure out who your quarterback is in some way. There's a reason NFL teams don't do that. And it's exactly what you saw last night, because the risk, like what's the upside there?
There was not.
You get decent quarterback play throughout the night. Well, you hope you drafted both these guys. You hope you can get decent quarterback play with either of them. If Mac's healthy, you hope you can get it with Mac. If he's not healthy, you hope you can get it with Zappi. Or at the very least, you learn you can't get it with Zappi, and now you know that. You've seen
your competition, your controversy's over. Right.
Right. By splitting both, well, now you got the downside of both possible outcomes smacking you in the face.
You didn't make a decision, and they both got exposed. And now, like I said, Mac's confidence is shot. It's like it's a disaster. I'm fed up. I've been fed up about it. Before we get into the defense, which I'll get fed up with even more probably because that was a disaster as well, let's calm down for a second, talk about our friends at LinkedIn, Alex, because these days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. We use LinkedIn Jobs here at CLNS Media to post our openings, and it works like a charm. LinkedIn makes it super easy to post your openings. Then you just add your job in the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. 2022 is coming to a close, so now's the perfect time to finish the year off right with a new team member. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering high-quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/beat. That's linkedin.com/beat to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Quick LinkedIn read in there. Go check out linkedin.com/beat to calm me down a little bit before we talk about this Patriots defense. Well, actually, do you have anything else on the offense, or we kind of pretty much hit on it? David Andrews. We can touch on David Andrews.
Could be a big loss. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
you look at the way the offensive line played. I'm a broken record, but I'm going to say it again. So they had 45 offensive plays last night, which, by the way, is not a lot. Not a lot. Time of possession was almost 40-20 in favor of the Bears. 45 plays last night. You take out 11 incompletions combined, right? That leaves you with 34. Ramondre Stevenson touched the ball in over half of those.
Yeah.
And it was late in that game, too, when Bill said it got away from him when it was over. They're still giving him the ball up the middle. He's not going to make it to December, and they're going to need him in December. Hopefully, there's relevant enough in December that they need him in December. Somebody else, whether it's Damian Harris, who did play a little last night, or it's one of the rookies, or it's elevating J.J. Taylor. I've said it before. I'll say it again. You can't give the ball to Ramondre Stevenson on every play. It just doesn't work like that in the modern NFL. They need to find a platoon. I know we just spent the whole first 30 minutes of the show ripping platoons. Running back is not quarterback. Smart teams platoon at running back in the modern NFL. They can't keep doing this to Ramondre. They just can't do it.
Yeah, especially next week, too, if you're without a guy like David Andrews, who is now a concussion protocol, and according to Pro Football Focus,
that was a dirty hit, by the way. I'm interested to see what the fine's going to be on that.
Yeah, a dirty hit by Mike Pennell.
It felt a little personal, and he's a former Patriot, so
yeah,
interesting.
Yeah, that was on a zappy interception to, was that the crosser that he tried to throw to Thornton and he threw it behind him?
Yeah, to Kyler Gordon. Yeah, that last one.
Who, again, Kyler Gordon, a guy who's had a brutal first NFL season so far, comes in and Zappy had Thornton open, it looked like, and he tried to move up in the pocket. He didn't set his feet right and just threw it behind him, and Gordon made a great play on it. But David Andrews might be out with a concussion, so if he doesn't play, you're bringing in a guy like James Ferentz in the middle. You're maybe elevating Cody Russi or something along those lines. So, like, again, your offensive line is going to be depleted on a unit that hasn't even been playing that great as it is. You're going to want to get another guy behind there running the ball with Stevenson. So that's the offense. Disaster. Coaching malpractice. 2 quarterbacks whose confidence is either shot or it's just awkward in the room. So we'll see what happens against the Jets. We'll preview Jets later on this week. But let's talk about this Patriots defense. Patriots defense was just also bad. Kyle Duggar left with an injury. He also had no Christian Barmore, so you were depleted. I'll say that. But Matthew Judon was really the only one that played well on defense. Everyone else kind of got exposed. They got completely gashed. Cannot handle mobile quarterbacks. You saw it with Lamar Jackson earlier in the season. You saw it with Justin Fields last night. Just not good from the defense overall.
So I do have 2 guys who I actually think played well in addition to Judon, and they didn't play major roles, so maybe that's why they don't stand out. But
sure,
the big issue of Jack Jones and Marcus Jones, I don't know why I'm trying to bury that. The issue for me last night, and this, we talked about, the mobile quarterbacks can be an issue. This goes beyond just running quarterbacks. What the Bears did a lot last night in the first half, the second half was just, they ripped off a bunch of the Ravens, like quarterback design runs up the middle. Part of the reason those were so successful, something the Bears did in the first half, they used the entire width of the field. By the way, Mike, I found out today, a lot of people don't know this. Do you know how wide a football field is?
53 1/3.
Yeah, there you go. 53 1/3 yards. And you see, this is really big in the college game now. If you've watched Tennessee, this is what Tennessee does.
Oh, yeah.
They line a receiver up like foot on the boundary on each sideline. They make you defend that entire width of the field. And look, you got to you have to have certain personnel to make that work. You have to have a ton of speed. You got a quarterback with a huge arm because you got to be able to fire it out there to the sideline. But when you do that, so two things happen. First, you stretch that defense out. The defense can't leave as many guys in the box because they have to be concerned with handling more of the field. The other thing that does, when the Patriots are facing the Browns, right, and they're running everything either between the tackles or just off tackle, right? Let's see if I can get the length of my box here, right? If this is the length of the field, I don't know. If this is the length of the field, right? But the other team's really only operating in here. Well, you only have to look in here when you're defending them.
Right.
When the team uses this much space, now all of a sudden I've got to look here to here. I've got to cover that much more ground. I've got to be aware of that much more ground in the same amount of time. Add to the fact, the Patriots really didn't look prepared for a lot of what the Bears did with that idea in terms of jet sweeps and motions and things like that. So they're already a step behind. They didn't play their athletic linebackers last night. Raekwon McMillan and Mack Wilson did not play a ton. It was mostly Jelani Tavai and Juwan Bentley, who are now a step behind, don't have that athletic burst, and they've got to cover that whole 53 and a third. And as we've learned over the last 15 or 20 years, Mike, when something is popular in college football, it is going to be massive in the NFL in about 5 years. No, maybe Bill's not here in 5 years, but
at this rate, I don't think he will be.
They did not look ready to defend those sorts of concepts. And then they tried to adjust to it in the second half by spreading it out. And I mean, they missed Christian Barmore badly in this game.
Yeah,
he's the guy you kind of want to pin on when you do this. So then they spread the defense out as a reaction. And all right, now Justin Fields just ripping you up the middle on quarterback delays. That was it. And it worked. So, none of the defensive linemen could get there. Quali got turned around a couple times. Sam Roberts had a rough rep. That to me is really what happened is they got out-schemed. They got out-schemed and they weren't able, we talked about the linebacker position as a need going into the draft, and then it wasn't. And then, we were excited about it in the summer. Well, if you're not going to play the guys that are athletic, it doesn't matter if you got more athletic linebackers. And now it looks like we're back to square one there. Theme of the night last night. It looks like we're back to square one there. So it was just really concerning to see them struggle with those. I don't know what the official term is for them. I'm calling them 53 and a third concepts, length of the field. Just probably a real term. This is where Evan would give me a talking to. They're struggling with those 53.
I'm not going to do that to you, Alex.
I appreciate it. They're struggling with those 53 and a third concepts. You know who, and they don't necessarily run it, but could put that in and have the personnel to run it? The Jets. You know who else? The Colts with Sam Ehlinger. Couldn't do it with Matt Ryan. Sam Ehlinger is basically just Taysom Hill, honestly.
With a better arm.
Better.
He's a better thrower. He's a better thrower than
better.
Taysom.
I don't know that he's good. He's better.
Sure.
They've got teams coming up on their slate. Let's not forget. I mean, we won't even get into the Cardinals and the Bills,
right?
Who actually do some of this and do it very well. They need to be able to defend this. They need to, or it's going to be that all over again. I know I came on here and hyped up the defense the last couple of weeks, and they were great at stopping the run in the middle. They stopped the run in the middle well last night. When the Bears ran in between the tackles, they averaged 4.1 yards per carry. That's doable. If you're a defense, you hold them to that number. It's not amazing, but that's a perfectly fine number. But if teams figure out that they can just run the ball all the way out, right outside that wide 9, that doesn't do you any good. So they got to figure out what their counter is to that.
Well, the other thing too, like you said, just as far as the personnel that was on the field and kind of the way they were they were subbing guys out in and out of kind of strange situations. They would bring 8 guys on and 8 guys off, play by play sometimes. And it's that kind of doesn't really allow players to get in much of a groove. I don't know. It's different, obviously, on defense compared to running an offense, but that was kind of something that we hadn't seen yet. And then, like you said, the last 2 weeks against teams that it was stop the run and allow the quarterback to make plays, and in Jared Goff and Jacoby Brissett, who aren't, they're athletic-ish. They can't run like Justin Fields can run. You did that to them, and they couldn't do anything because they don't have the athleticism to get out and around and, run around like Justin Fields does. So you have these linebackers in these last 2 games in Tavai and not Mac Wilson. Mac Wilson's athletic, but like a guy like Jelani Tavai in the middle who plays well against slower quarterbacks because his only job is basically stop the run and he doesn't have to run and chase a guy around. Well, now Tavai's playing all game and Mac Wilson and Raekwon McMillan aren't against the athletic player. It just the personnel it made no sense to me whatsoever. The other thing is third down. It was this 53 and a third offense that they couldn't stop, but the other major turning point here was third down. Prior to last night's game, Patriots opponents converted 40% of their third downs. They converted 33 of 81 third down attempts. Last night the Bears went 11 of 18 on third down, 61%. So A, that completely jolts their third down percentage up for the year, but B, it was a complete turning point in the game. Every single third down up until this point, it was more likely than not that the Patriots were going to get off the field. And last night, they just could not stop them on third down whatsoever.
Yeah. Poor situational football. And it was all just Justin Fields running away, and people complained about them not using a spy. That certainly was frustrating. Who is it going to be? There's safeties dropping left and right. I mean, the defense really, not that it was great to start the game. When they lost Kyle Duggar, it really got ugly.
Yeah.
And we saw that when he was out earlier this year, especially on the tight ends. Devin McCourty, great Patriot for his career, cannot man up tight ends anymore. Can't do it.
No.
He keeps getting beat
by Cole Kmet.
And nobody, I like Cole Kmet. Nobody seems to be able to do it besides Duggar on the defense. And look, maybe they could try Jalen Mills, but now you're really going there, right? The third downs, just letting Fields get out, get away. Again, they missed Christian Barmore, they missed Kyle Duggar, but not having a spy there was costly and just not figuring it out. A lot of the scrambles were the same kind of idea. It was like back, or it was up, back, up, and out. Like he kept kind of using that same little wiggle, right, to get himself away and out of the pocket where he could actually. You don't just stand there and take off. You got to move to a spot where you can take off. And he was kind of using the same concept, the same footwork to get to that spot. And they just, I don't know if they never picked up with it or whatever it was. They couldn't catch up to it, but the third downs, it's not like they were, I just kind of talked about the scheme and the 53 and a third. The third downs were just broken plays. And they talked about that all week, that they could not let him use his legs on broken plays. That was the one way that he was going to beat them. And that was the one focus for the defense that they could not let happen. Didn't matter. It's exactly how we beat them.
Right. And two, like it's Fields, like you said, who did it, but also the other two running backs are the running backs were solid too. I mean, Montgomery and Herbert each had 62 yards apiece. As a team, they ran for 243 rushing yards. I'm looking at the box score now. Dante Pettis also had a 29-yard carry, but they ran the ball so well, and so they were also able to slow the clock down, and they completely won the time of possession battle. They held the ball for 37 minutes compared to the Patriots 22. So when they got up on those leads, they were able to force the Patriots on their defense was able to force the Patriots offense into basically 3-and-outs with Zappe at the helm in the second half. And then they got the ball back and either were scoring at will or just pretty much melting the clock. So yeah, Fields had 179 yards in the air, but their passing attack wasn't great. N'Keal Harry had a 14-yard catch, which I keep echoing that me and Alex were at Gillette Stadium last night. Hilarious. N'Keal Harry hauls in his 14-yard catch, and the place goes up and boos. He was a really good sport about it after the game.
He was. But Fields missed him at one point. He had him like wide open over the middle for like a 30-yard touchdown. Luckily for N'Keal Harry, he's used to just kind of being missed in that stadium. But that would have been something.
Yeah. But no, Harry was a good sport about it after the game. I thought that was pretty good, I guess. But I guess he was hanging out in the tunnel and, talking to some Gillette Stadium staff and whatnot too. But Harry has a catch for 14 yards. I mean, passing attack wasn't great, but the run game
they didn't need it to be.
Exactly. The run
That's
game.
The whole thing. You beat the Bears by making them throw the ball. It's not that they didn't throw the ball well. Oh, that's a win. They didn't throw the ball well because they had no interest in throwing the ball.
Right. Like I had mentioned before, I mean, Judon was a beast again. He had 2.5 sacks. He sort of paced them on defense, whereas like every time that they actually did make a stop, it looked like it was Judon. You also had mentioned that the Joneses impressed you a little bit. Do you have anything kind of any stat wise on that, or any stuff on the Joneses?
Just a couple of plays that stood out. Jack Jones making that tackle. I know, like he was credited for the tackle with the loss. I know some people said the tackle was broken. on that play, when you know you have help coming, like he made the right play. Him being able to be involved in the run game like that, it's not just that he stepped up and made the tackles, that he read the play correctly. That's how, people ask me, oh, he should be playing more. He's at like 65% right now. That's how he's going to get up into that 85-90 range and higher, is by being able to contribute against the run as well as the pass. So little flash there. That was cool to see. And then Marcus Jones, that pass he broke up coming over the middle, where he's 2 steps behind. He's 2 steps behind and that ball is thrown. He still breaks it up. He made a lot of plays like that in Houston. He can bait quarterbacks like that. There's not a lot of guys that can bait quarterbacks out of the slot. It's really because you don't have a lot of time. Those are quick passes. To bait those, everybody thinks of Asante Samuel, right? In the T-step, well, you're 20 yards down the field. The ball takes time to get there. Marcus Jones is just so explosive, and you saw it on that play, how well he caught up, and he almost picked that off. That play will turn into interceptions eventually. So he hasn't been playing a ton on defense.
Right.
But when he's been out there, he's been impressive. And that was another example where you just got a little flash of like, oh yeah, no, this kid's legit. This kid can play.
Yeah. Some flashes, but overall, just a tough performance. The defense is really lucky that Belichick handled the quarterbacks the way he did, because they would be getting a lot more flack today than they are, because all the storylines and all the focus is on the quarterback position and not so much that the tough showing the defense had last night. Same thing.
It should be on the defense.
It should 100% be on the defense. That, like, we should be talking defense and how bad they were all day today, but it's kind of a moot point after what happened with Jones and Zappi. Another guy who kind of is getting lost in the shuffle because of the quarterback controversy is Jake Bailey. Jake Bailey, a guy who was an all-pro in 2020, was a dominant special teams weapon. Alex was famous for always kind of tweeting out his hang times during camps and practices and whatnot, because he was awesome. I mean, he would completely flip the field for this team, and added to that aura of Patriots special teams is always, something you got to watch out for. Well, Jake Bailey is brutal in the punt game this year. Yesterday, he only averaged 40 yards a punt, not able to flip the field for them really whatsoever, and gave Chicago a good field position all day.
Yeah, he's had a couple rough ones this year. I really don't know what happened. I need to go watch it closer, but there's so many other things I got to look at with this team right now. Yeah. So last year he was hurt. I know people say it goes back to last year. He was hurt this year. By all accounts, he's healthy. He's told us he's healthy. He's not listed on the injury report. The team gave him that extension. You'd think he's fully healthy. I really don't think that's an issue. And he looked good at the start of camp. He looked really, in the spring, he looked really good. First couple of weeks of camp, he looked really good. And then it was around the time of the first preseason game that he just kind of, he's lost some pop. He's not hitting the ball as high. He's not hitting the ball as far. I can't tell you what it is. I don't know, but it just sort of happened, right? Yeah. It's not a thing that goes back 2 years. I think people are looking at it as he had a bad year last year and they still paid him. No, he was hurt last year, came back healthy, looked good. They paid him. Right. I don't know. Can punters get a contract and tap out? I know we talk about that with guys at other positions. You don't normally talk about it with special teams guys, but that's what it looks like. I don't think that's it, but that's what it looks like. Like he just, there was an it with him. Like he just hit the ball different that 2020 season, even going back to 2019, just hit the ball different.
Yeah.
He hasn't been doing that the last, 8 weeks, right? Going back to the end of the preseason.
Yeah, again, it's something that they almost you wrote into the Patriots game plan, is that they're going to flip the field with Jake Bailey when they have to. And hey, even though the offense might go 3-and-out here, at least Bailey might get them some decent field position on the next drive, and just haven't seen it. So yeah, a disaster really on all 3 phases of the game yesterday. Not much to write home about whatsoever. Any final thoughts on this entire game before we wrap it up? Who do you think they go with next week? I guess we'll get into that more so on Thursday when we preview the Jets game. But after today, what are your thoughts on where after yesterday, what are your thoughts on where they go from the position?
I don't know the position because we don't know how healthy Mac is. I still think if Mac's healthy, it's his team. There's too many people saying that.
Yeah.
Mac's going to start. I don't put it past them to do another one of these rotations again. If Mac's if Mac's 95%, because that seemed to be what their logic was. Trying to kind of read between the lines, it's tough to tell, but when I kind of force myself to be like, instead of looking at it all and just saying this is nonsense, when I kind of force myself to be like, all right, what are they really saying here? It felt like Well, Mac was healthy enough to play, but not for 60 minutes. And we wanted him out there as much as he could be, knowing full well it wasn't the full game. Well, here's the thing about high ankle sprains, and Mike Giardi kind of talked about this on NFL Network this afternoon. They linger. He said that Mac might not be back to 100% for the full season. So what does that mean, that this is what it's going to be right through January? Is there a point where he gets healthy enough, even if he's not 100%, they go away from the rotation? I'll say this. This is kind of where I'm at with the Patriots as a whole, though. I know it's a big game against the Jets, right? It's a division game. It's a get-right game. That, if they lose this one, the wheels really start to spin and all of that. And the Jets have been really good, and they've got this defensive front, and Zach Wilson.
You lose ground in the division, right? Too. Yeah.
I get people want to hype this up about the matchup between the Patriots and the Jets. To me, if I'm the Patriots, I'm trying to figure out how to say this. The opponent, regardless of who it is, I don't care who they're playing this week. The opponent could not be more irrelevant at this point. They need a good week. And I don't mean that they shouldn't focus on and prepare for the Jets. It's actually the opposite of that. They need a normal freaking week inside that building. A normal week of practice, a normal week of film study, a normal week of game planning, normal travel, normal pregame warmups. Name a starting quarterback before 20 minutes to kick off. They need to get the house in order. The Jets, to me, are the fact. I know people want to play because it's the first time in a long time, maybe 10 years, 12 years. It's been a big game between the Patriots and the Jets, and people want to play it up, and I get it. The fact that they're playing the Jets is not remotely the biggest story to me. It's, can they get their stuff together?
Yeah.
After that performance.
Right. It's like you don't know who it's going to be, but it's almost like you wish or you hope that Mac can max at 100 or close to 100 and it doesn't linger, so that they can just make a decision tonight into tomorrow and be like, look, this is the path we're going. Let the freaking offense know outside of the quarterbacks and just roll. And whether it's Zappy, whether it's Mac, make the decision and stick to it until there is a benching involved. Not because it's injury related or because you're trying to platoon these guys, because it doesn't work that way. We're playing in the NFL. This is not college. This is not high school. This is not Pop Warner. It's NFL football. That's not how the quarterback position works.
I'll add this one more thing. I wrote about this on 985thesportshub.com today. And I know this is going to set people off, but just listen to me. The strangest thing about all of this to me is, and I say this all the time, use historical context, find the patterns. He's been doing this for 22 years. The last time the Patriots had a sort of quarterback controversy, and it wasn't like this, but the last time that they had uncertainty at the quarterback position, Bill handled it completely differently. And I'm talking about Cam Newton and Jarrett Stidham. Cam Newton at the end of that season was not playing well, yet every chance Bill Belichick had, he reaffirmed the fact that Cam Newton was the starter. And I know a lot of people weren't happy about that, and maybe they should have started Zappy, or maybe they should have started Stidham. I don't think they should have, because I saw enough from him in those relief appearances. But I'll say this. Whether you think Cam should have been the starter or not, Bill repeatedly pointing that out kept that team together and kept that team rolling. They were able to rally around Cam Newton. He was a clear leader in the locker room, and the standing was clear. And I think that helped. Ultimately, they only won 7 games.
Right.
But I think that actually could have been a lot. Let's say Bill had handled that like he's handling this. That's probably a 4 or 5 win team. Probably.
Yeah, 100%. Everyone's going in the same direction.
Right. We know that they're not opposed to taking that approach. So I'll leave this open-ended because I'm legitimately asking this question. I'm not saying this is a criticism. I'm not saying this to poke fun. I'm legitimately asking this question. What is the difference between this situation and that situation 2 years ago? Because the only one I can think of is that Mac is more ingrained as the starter now, the long-term starter now, than Cam was 2 years ago. Cam was a free agent. He was on a 1-year deal. He was 33 years old. Mac was picked in the first round, less than 3 years ago. Less than 2 years ago. Right.
Right.
So you would think there's more you would think there's more reason to be definitive about a guy like Mac than a guy like Cam. Is it because Zappe is better than Stidham? Is it like, I don't know. I'd be really interested to find the answer to that question because it is a little jarring when you look at those two side by side.
Right. I mean, obviously we can pick apart the differences, but I get the analogy, and it's like they made a decision, whether people liked it or not. They had the boat rowing in the same direction, as PJ
Right.
Fleck would say, row the boat, right? You
Right.
can't row the boat if one guy's going one way and the other guy's going the other, and it seems like that's happening right now in the Patriots locker room. We'll leave that for you guys to chew on. We will be back on Thursday to discuss Patriots versus Jets coming up this Sunday. Pats travel to the Meadowlands this weekend to take on the 5-2 New York Jets, I believe. They're rolling right now. Just traded for James Robinson. They're going to get their offense back on track, hopefully. They're also wearing some black helmets this weekend for the first time. So we get a nice little uniform nugget in there for the
there's
New
one.
York
I'll
Jets.
give you one more. I'll give you one more. And everybody loved the silver pants, right? In 2002, the Patriots, week 6, they played the Packers.
Oh, yeah.
They wore all blue uniforms. First time they'd done that in like the dynasty era. They weren't a dynasty yet, but the dynasty era uniforms, right? First time they'd gone all blue. They only wore the silver pants before that. They lost 28-10. Game was probably uglier than the score indicated. Bill Belichick never let them wear those blue pants again at home. Never. So if you like the silver uniforms, I hope you enjoyed them because that might be all she wrote. That might be it. Yeah.
Yeah, the last 2 times have been a disaster. It ended the Tom Brady era, and then we saw last night what happened. So again, we get to off uniform talk. The Jets are rocking some black helmets next weekend, so it should be fun as well. We'll get into all that on Thursday. Patriots lose 33-14. More questions than answers after this one against the Bears, but hopefully they can try and move on and get right this weekend against the Jets. We'll be back on Thursday to preview that one. You can check out all of Alex's stuff at 985thesportshub.com and follow him at RealAlexBarth on Twitter. You can also check my stuff out on CLNSmedia.com and follow me on Twitter at Mike Kadlick. It's in our boxes right there. That's that for this one. Patriots again fall to the Bears 33-14. We'll be back on Thursday. Thank you all for watching.